Detail Germany's stance in the world towards the beginning of the 1900s. How did Otto von Bismarck unify Germany? Go. I had to read about Snow White, right? Cinderella, a little bit. Griffin, you like those movies? Are you serious? Snow White, Seven Dwarfs.
Maybe I probably watched it.
Cinderella. Glass Slipper. Wow. I think it just came out with the movie Maleficent, right? It came out not too long ago.
I heard
Ah,
not a good movie.
you sure?
I don't have anything past Netflix.
Really? You're more of a show guy. Yeah. Squid Game, I guess.
I didn't even watch that. I don't watch TV. I don't have time.
Just sports, right?
Pretty much for football.
In fact, I didn't go to bed. I didn't get to watch that either. I tried to watch the first episode. I got like halfway through. Heard it gets good though.
I just think it's fun when people die. It's good.
Holy cow, Noah.
It's funny.
Jeez.
Shaky.
Brutal. Like Mike Myers said.
Oh my
That's
god. I'm not 6'7". That movie's nuts. That's one movie I'll.
Did you see the new one?
No.
Wait, Griffin, did you see it?
Nah, I saw it.
Gail, you did?
Yeah. Went to the drive-in. I got really long and I missed it. And I just watched the second and third.
I heard the stairwell of that guy. That was crazy. I've been watching all of them. I'm at Halloween 4 right now. Made like mid-80s. Working my way up since I watched the new ones already.
I don't know. I don't understand how he always comes back. Is there like a reason he always comes back? You guys keep making money.
Yeah, I guess in the older ones, they're really not too. Yeah, there's not a great reason. Yeah, it's indestructible. The new ones, though, kind of make more sense. And the Rob Zombie ones, mid-2000s, they just kind of focus around him more, like psychologically affected by it. Pretty neat. All right, so let's get after it here so I can come around and grade your bell ringers and your assignment from Wednesday. So detail Germany's stance in the world towards the beginning of the 1900s. How did Otto von Bismarck unify Germany? So let's start off with him, Otto von Bismarck. This was a vocab term from last chapter, right? I think so. Yeah, who was he? Who was he? Griffin? Yeah, well, the chancellor. He was the chancellor of Prussia. Yeah, good job. And Prussia at one time was just a German-speaking state. After Napoleon, I'm sure you guys heard of Napoleon before with Mr. Shutt back in 9th grade, after he wreaked havoc all throughout Europe, it pretty much left Europe in shambles. And there is 30 to 40 different German-speaking states in the center of Europe, and Prussia was the most dominant. So you remember when we talked about the Industrial Revolution, that second wave? Yeah, okay, that second wave actually occurred in Prussia. That's the most dominant German-speaking state. And Otto von Bismarck, he was really this military leader at this time, strong conservative, and he wanted to try to unify all these German-speaking states together. Okay, this is really after the fall of the Holy Roman Empire, once Napoleon came through Europe, like I mentioned. And his goal to try to unify these German-speaking states was strictly through the military, utilizing the military and the advancements through that second wave of the Industrial Revolution to unify Germany as a whole and become really the world's most dominant power. And they achieved that. Okay, and we'll talk more about it today. But from your reading, nationalism was a term that was thrown around a lot. And what is nationalism? What does that mean? We'll talk about it as a cause to World War I next week. Griffin?
pride or like pride in the country?
Yeah, like extreme patriotism, right? Showing that you have strong national pride in your country and that you're second to none, really. Okay. And this leads into a lot of other different terms we're going to mention next week that builds up to this war. Okay. So at this time, where do you think a lot of these countries put a lot of their funding into? The military, right? And Prussia, especially, not Russia, Prussia with a P. Okay, that's where this all begins, and that's how Germany becomes the country we know of it through World War I and World War II. All right, so with Otto von Bismarck, we'll talk about it. They go through two different wars. One of them was the Austro-Prussian War, which they called the 7-week war. Only took 7 weeks. So it just goes to show how powerful Germany really was. And then the Franco-Prussian War, which was France versus Germany at that time, Prussia. And that only took 6 months. So Germany, just new becoming unified country, defeats two European powers, really the two largest land armies in the world at that moment, within 7 weeks and in 6 months. So you can see how the Industrial Revolution totally changed the dynamics of warfare and who's a world power and who's the most dominant in Europe at that time. Like if you're the top dog in Europe, you're definitely the most powerful country in the world at that moment, at that time. America's rising though at that same moment, which we already talked about last chapter. All right, any questions on the bell ringer here? So again, this is kind of leading into what we're going to be talking about today. So have your bell ringers out and you're reading. I'm going to come around and check that. Shouldn't take too long. We only have 2 questions, 2 bell ringers. And the reading, I think I had what, 4 questions? All right, so 2 bell ringers, yeah. Okay. Good work. Good job. Right? Angel? Still reading? Charlotte? Okay, good. Good work. Job. 7-3. Nice job. Good. Nice. The president. Griffin, Tanner. Good. Good. And we're reading. What do you think of the reading?
Pretty interesting.
These, right?
Too many pages.
Oh, come on now. Why 3? Ain't nobody got time for it.
Ain't no time, right? That's funny. All right, Eve. Nice. Nice thing on the front, I like. Speaks of you.
Good job. What job like you guys?
Look at that. Good job.
Really nice.
Good job. Good. Eddie,
Sorry, sir.
you like the reading, huh?
Mm,
It's all Terry.
It's rubber.
Oh, well. Good. Oh, pound you. All right, so terms for today. Here we go. Good job on the grades. I'll post those right away. That makes it 35. 35 assignments. Most I ever had. Okay, so we got Bismarck, which is a repeat, I guess, from last unit, but hey, we're talking about them a lot. Realpolitik, the 7 Weeks War, Franco-Prussian War, and Alsace and Lorraine. There you go. There you go. Chapter 3, World War I. Yep. New chapter here. This is really the origins of it. All right. That was pretty quick. Thanks, Miss O'Neill. We are working on the chapter 3 vocab now. Start of the chapter 3 vocab. I know. Made it just in time. We have our bell ringer, yeah. So you watch the video lesson later, that'd be great. You can come back and show me. Or you can get it from Sarah.
Oh, no, I probably did not.
Oh, like and subscribe. Come on.
Sure. Who's the first one we had?
Yeah.
I'll just copy it.
Look out for them.
It's the first vocabulary.
Eddie. Better not be playing euchre back there. Chloe, you have your reading done?
No. I honestly.
Thank you for being honest. I do like that.
I put it during your Sunday afterwards, but I won't. Probably get this kind of data.
Probably all that euchre you've been playing. Alsace Lorraine. All the sauce in Lorraine. Huh? Oh, good. Good. Yeah,
Crazy how that works.
I know. Glad it went well. All right, those grades are going in right now. Where you going? Whoa, jeez. Too much information there. Thought you were going to the auction to see young Carlos. I might go tonight. I haven't been there in a while. Yeah, it's his brother, his older brother. I went to high school with young Carlos. One of my best buddies. I saw they're at the Patriots game the other day.
Yeah, they were.
That's awesome. Said he might come over Sunday. We'll see. I make burgers. He's gonna make tacos.
Or you could switch it up.
Yeah, look at that. That'd be something. All right, let's go over Otto von Bismarck. We already know him. We talked about him. He's the Chancellor of Prussia, okay, and then of Germany. So when Germany unifies after these two wars, which are mentioned here, he will become the Chancellor, and he'll have a disagreement with the Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm II, right? And he will be the Emperor during World War I of Germany. So Bismarck eventually get the boot, but when we talk about unification of Germany, he does so through military action, through just being more dominant. And thanks to that second wave of the Industrial Revolution, Germany, Prussia at that time, was allowed to become this imperialistic power, one that was recognized as the strongest European country at that moment. Realpolitik, what's that? This is something new, I'm sure you never heard of. What does that mean? Griffin, go ahead.
System of politics and principles based on practical rather than moral considerations.
Yeah. So you're not pretty much beating around the bush. You're going straight at it, just pretty much discussing the actual motives of, let's say, discussions of one country and another. So with Otto von Bismarck, he was a straight shooter. So I'm sure you know with politicians, you don't hear the truth often. There's always an alternative motive, right? But with realpolitik, Otto von Bismarck was pretty much just saying, we're going to be straight shooters here. We're going to explain what is in our benefit and what is in benefit of, let's say, another country. And when going to war with France and discussing with Great Britain about this war, he's obviously discussing about the aims of Prussia at that time, of the unification of Germany, right? And then obviously with Austria as well. So he's claiming that a lot of the politics of the time, the decision making at the government level is not going to be swayed. It's not going to be skewed. It's not going to be hidden from people's eyes, that it's just going to be straight up, right? It's going to be expressing the needs, wants, and demands of said country, right? And at that time, especially with media at the time, with journalism, we talked about yellow journalism at that moment when the Spanish-American War. He wants to try to build a state that is credible, that is not, I guess you could say, skewed. And his expression with realpolitik is what the people admired. Okay, whatever he said went. Okay, there was no shifting, or there was no dissolution of his demands and wants. All right, the 7 Weeks War. What do we have here? Kale? Yeah, with who? Well, Prussia was a part of it. This was before they were unified yet. Austria, yep, good job. So Austria was a strong power right around the late 1800s, yet they were declining, though. They didn't go through this industrial revolution like Prussia did at this time. So when Austria goes to war with Prussia, it only lasts 7 weeks, hence the name 7 Weeks War. And a lot of that has to do because of the military advantage Prussia had over all the powers really in the rest of the world. Okay, Franco-Prussian War. What do you have here, Tanner?
It was a war between Prussia, or other than Germany, with France.
Yeah, good job. So Prussia, they will unify Germany as a whole during this war. Okay, it took steps. So through the 7 Weeks War, they unify the northern part of Germany, and through the Franco-Prussian War, which was France was really one of the dominant land armies in the world. And if they defeat France in a war, no problem, which they did in 6 months, 7 months, they can unify Germany as a whole and be recognized at the world stage. And very similar with us, the United States, going through that war with Spain. Spain, declining power, not that very strong. But France, I mean, that's a formidable opponent. And if Germany at that time can beat them, which they did, no problem, they can be recognized at the world stage and dictate what goes on in the world. Hence the Berlin Conference, right? You see how we bringing that all together? That's how they could dictate the conference and explain what was going on and what European countries can claim what territories in Africa. Alsace and Lorraine, last one here, is going to be big news here, big territory when we get to World War I and the rivalry between France and Germany that leads into the First World War. Gabe, what do you have?
Created in 1871 by the German Empire after taking the region from the German Empire in the war. the Franco-Prussian War.
Okay, yeah, good job. So this is the territory that was claimed by Germany after this Franco-Prussian War, and it was treated as like a buffer state, okay, a buffer territory between Germany and France, okay? So that land was crucial because now Germany can fortify it and could put a lot of defenses along this line. And also it has access to the Rhine River. So then Germany can do what? Build up their navy. Okay, so it was very useful, it was very strategic in value to Germany and even France. And after this war, Germany claims that. And this is going to be really the hotbed where most of the fighting of World War I is going to happen in this territory, this land. All right, so let's get to it here. So Germany, like I said, was split up into 38 different German-speaking states at the end of the Napoleonic Wars, okay, in the beginning of the 1800s. So really after France was trying to conquer all of Europe and really all of Russia at that time, they failed. So with that being said, it left Europe in a state of almost chaos, right? And Germany, especially what we know of the country today, was split up into different territories, different states, German-speaking states. And this was really the end of the Holy Roman Empire. So whenever you hear about Nazi Germany, you hear about the Third Reich. You guys ever hear that before? The Third Reich? Yeah, so the First Reich was considered the Holy Roman Empire. And that ruled for a long time through the Middle Ages, medieval times. And once that failed, once that collapsed, really, at the end of Napoleonic Wars in the beginning of the 1800s, the Second Reich was Prussia, okay, Otto von Bismarck, and how he's unifying Germany as a country. And then eventually, after World War I, beginning of World War II, Adolf Hitler will create the Third Reich. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you ever hear the Third Reich when we talk about World War II, that's what it means. Okay, the Second Reich is what we're getting into right now. Just means like third power, okay, second power, like a wave almost. So Prussia, like I mentioned, was the most dominant German-speaking state, and just because of the Industrial Revolution, because all these new advancements emerging from Prussia, right? It was this new way of life using of chemicals and steam power and even moving into gasoline, oil, okay, for sources of fuel to power their military. And one of the big advantages Prussia had is that, as you can see, it expands really all the way from Russia, okay, really at the Baltic Sea, at the top you can see it, all the way to the western part close to close to France. And Otto von Bismarck decided to put a lot of time and effort into building up the railroad system throughout Germany. Why do you think that was important for a military at that time? This was really never before seen, especially in Europe at this moment. Why do you think it was important to build a railroad system all throughout Germany and to try to connect these German-speaking states? What do you think? What do you think? Gail, why do you think it was important for Bismarck to put a lot of time, effort, and resources into building the railroad system through Germany and connecting these German-speaking states that he really didn't have a say or government in? Okay, so trade is a huge reason. Yeah, good job. No. Yeah, military use. Good job. Good job. Like I mentioned, Europe was really not connected yet. Yeah, they had roads, they had some bridges, but for the most part, it was still like your typical 1800s, beginning of the 1800s, where there was really no roads, no railroads connecting things together. So Bismarck thought, well, if we connect Germany as a whole all together with these German-speaking states, we can maneuver resources, raw materials, and different types of supplies to locations quick and become an even dominant world power. And at the same time, maneuver the military. Okay, so he can move the military from one location to another and mobilize millions of troops really within an instant, even before, let's say, Austria or France can bring together their army, obviously walking these far distances or utilizing horseback. Railroad, you can get there a lot quicker, a lot more efficient, and you can carry a lot more supplies and goods with you at the same time. And obviously, Industrial Revolution allowed for Prussia to have these advanced rifles, advanced weaponry that, let's say, Austria and France were still using muzzle loaders, right? Muskets. Okay. It was really an unfair advantage for Prussia. They really were so far superior than these other countries in Europe. All right. So the biggest thing here, the Austro-Prussian War. Like I mentioned, Bismarck thought it was in his need and his desire to try to unify these German-speaking states. The only way German culture can rise to the top is if they unify these German-speaking states. And like I said, there's about 30, 38 of them. That's a lot. And Bismarck thought, well, the only way we're going to do this is if we challenge these European powers. If we challenge, let's say, Austria and France in wars to show these German-speaking states we are dominant. If we all come together, really the expectations, the opportunities are endless. That we can claim lands even further past our own borders. That we could be considered a top power like Great Britain. So this Austro-Prussian War, at one time, there's confederations amongst these German-speaking states in the southern portion of Germany, and even pushing up into the northern portions of Germany. And Bismarck utilized the railroad system, utilized these new advancements in weaponry. So with semi-automatic rifles, okay, utilizing the railroads to mobilize an army quick, and Austria had no plan to do this at all. So with that being said, it only lasted 7 weeks. Okay, 7 weeks, just because of the mobilization of the army using the railroads and the advanced weaponry. So Bismarck unified the northern part of Germany pretty quick, and even claimed lands moving up into the Northern Sea, where Denmark's located. So with access to the Northern Sea, what could he then build and challenge Great Britain with? A navy. Good job. Good job. So you can see his idea of trying to unify Germany. You can see his expectations and how he's going to try to maneuver Germany even more as a world power. And you need a navy, especially in these times of imperialism. We talked a lot about that last chapter with the United States in the Western Hemisphere. So like I mentioned, only lasted 7 weeks. But still, some German-speaking states, especially in the southern portion of Germany, did not unify just yet, right? They needed something a little bit more. Okay, Austria, yeah, they're a dominant power, but they're declining, right? They weren't going through modernization like these other countries, like France and Great Britain, United States, right? And Prussia at that time. So Bismarck needed to do more, and hence the Franco-Prussian War. So after he unified the northern part of Germany, okay, he still needed some of the German-speaking states in the southern portion of Germany to unify. The only way he's going to do that, again, is war, right? Is war. And the only way he's going to control the government process is by showing that Germany is this dominant power and is this advanced modern threat to Europe and the rest of the world. So he goes to war with France. And he does this through realpolitik, right? And he almost baits France into try to attack him first. So it makes it look like France was the aggressor, that they were the ones trying to attack Germany. And a lot of that was because Germany was sending troops, mobilizing troops, utilizing the railroad to the territory of Alsace-Lorraine, right? To that Western territory between France and Germany. So he was mobilizing these troops there and pretty much egging France on, waiting for them to attack first. And why do you think he wanted France to attack first? Go ahead, Griffin. All right, gives them a reason to be in war. So a justification to the rest of the German speaking states to unify, to come together, to try to defeat France, who was the dominant land army at that time. And who else was maybe going to join? That's separated by just a small body of water. Who do you want to prevent from joining in this war? Griffin? Yeah, Great Britain. Good job. Good job. So if he could prevent Great Britain from entering the war by looking that France was the aggressor, he could have his way with France, literally. And he did, like I said, 6 months. And at the same time, keeping Great Britain out of the conflict. If he can do that, then it's really no holds barred, right? He can claim land, claim territory, and show himself as a world power. And that's exactly what happened. So guess where they crowned after the Franco-Prussian War, after Prussia unified Germany, Germany's now a unified country. Guess where they crowned the new emperor of Germany? Guess where they crowned him? Go ahead, Tanner. Huh?
Paris.
The Treaty of Versailles, yeah. Well, sorry, not the Treaty of Versailles, but Versailles Palace. Yeah, right in Paris. So again, throwing salt in the wound, right? So that's like, let's say a conquering nation comes and crowns their king, crowns their president, let's say in the White House. Can you imagine that? So you can see the rivalry already taking place between France and Germany, building up to World War I. They literally crowned their emperor, their king, in the Palace of Versailles, which is in really the capital of their rival. Unbelievable, right, Griff? Would you be ticked off if you're France? Yeah. So rather than fully taking over France, he just stops. Says, you know what? We just want this territory. We wanted to rub it in. We wanted to show the rest of the world what type of military power we are. And we unified Germany. So he stops. He doesn't try to fully take over France. Because if he did, who would probably join the battle? Great Britain. Yeah. So you guys see how that's already ramping up to World War I. You see how Germany is unifying and becoming a dominant threat. They just beat France, the most dominant land power army in the world, within 6 months, just because of the modernization, because of the advancements. All right, that's all I got. Is there any questions? There's a video attached to the video lesson for today. It explains a little bit as well. So if you want to check that out, go ahead.